The offensive line is hard to watch. That was something someone said to me over the weekend after digesting Austin P and Georgia. A lot of discussion about Gunnar Stockton out there on the internet, but the folks I talked to, they're more focused on an offensive line that was without two starters, and we're going to see if those guys come back in Juan Gaston and Ernest Green. Ernest Green is I would say, particularly important part of all of this puzzle, and I write about that quite a bit more in what we're hearing, which is the QR code down below as well as the link down below. It's this is an important week for Georgia. A loss at Tennessee would be well, it certainly wouldn't be the end of the world. We're in a new climate, and we're in a new reality in college football. To be honest with you, where you're not going undefeated in these seasons. The question is, where do you lose? When do you lose? How do you even when do you lose does not necessarily matter, but how do you lose? Who have you beaten? There's a lot of stuff that is going to go into things, but these games are going to matter a lot for playoff seeding, for trying to win the conference, stuff like that. So for a Georgia team that looked really, really good to me against Marshall and took a step back for sure against Austin P, are they going to have Ernest Green and Juan Gaston back? Are they going to be able to take shots down the field? There was a lot of frustration from Georgia insiders about the play of the offensive line against Austin P in the passing game specifically. The criticism of Gunner is not it's not exclusive to the offensive line, but the folks that I talked to are essentially saying, it's not easy to play quarterback when your offensive line is not functioning in pass protection the way that they should. Again, you have to wonder now with Ethan Barber out probably for an extended period of time, if not the season. That's three guys that started at the beginning of the year at Georgia on their offense, particularly two guys on the offensive line. I mean, this is the thing that we're running into in college football is, can you stay healthy? Tennessee's not healthy either. I mean, Tennessee's got some real challenges. This line was at 6.5 on Saturday night. Today, on Monday, it's at 3.5. So, Georgia's still favored. They're narrowly favored right now in a way that, it would be once momentum starts, it feels like it's hard to stop the momentum from stopping. But at some stage, this thing will slow down. A touchdown flip on who is favored in a game without a starting quarterback being out, that is a very rare thing in college football. But the line going against Georgia, does that matter? I mean, it's just an indication of where public sentiment is. And the way that Tennessee scored this past week, it's not surprising to me that that's the case, that's gone that way. Clemson, Georgia Tech has shifted almost 5 points from 9 to 4.5. Clemson favored in that game. That's a road game for the Tigers as well. But in what we were hearing, it's a great. I didn't put that on the screen correctly. It's a great time to be a member at Dog Post because, well, I'm not getting it right. I'll show it some way or another. It's a great time to be a member of Dog Post because of stories like what we're hearing. You get the ability to read insights and analysis that your people speak more clearly when they're off the record, and their name is not attributed to it. Sometimes they're not able to speak with their name to it. But the concern with the offensive line was something that we talked about coming into this season. We also talked about concern with the defensive line. That is something insiders are very happy about right now. That is one person said to me following the game, they said Georgia's defense can really, really run, and that should keep them in most games. This is a game, though, where as well as Georgia's played against Tennessee with Kirby Smart, well, really this century, generally speaking, they played well against the Vols. Got lit up in 07, 09. That's it in terms of in 06, I guess you could say in 06. But Georgia's mainly won these games, and they've been decisive wins lately. But Georgia, Georgia's defense playing pretty well. You do have to pay attention to someone scoring over 70 points. What I don't know the answer to is, have we seen this from Tennessee in the past, and this is who they are, and this is what they do, and then they get into conference play and they struggle? Or is this a different, situation with them? You've got a new quarterback who was playing very efficiently against East Tennessee for sure, but against Syracuse as well, I think he played pretty well. Do you have a new situation in Knoxville? Because you could. I mean, there was so much discussion after Nico was gone, and all of that drama in the spring, that I think a lot of people really felt like Tennessee would not be in the position they're in right now. But they're a top 15 team. They're hosting Georgia. There's a lot going for the Vols coming into this thing. For Georgia, I think these next, stretch of games, I kept saying that Auburn's after Alabama lately. That's not the case. Georgia plays Kentucky at home before Auburn. None of these games are looking easy right now. I mean, you're going to have to go to Knoxville. You've got Alabama after a week off. Alabama will probably play their best game of the season against Georgia. That's what I would imagine. And then, you host Kentucky week after a physical game with Alabama. You have probably the most physical team in the league that people don't think about, which is Kentucky. And you got to go to Auburn. I mean, I think if you can get out of this stretch with one loss, you're probably right on target. Going to Neyland, going to Auburn, those are two of the toughest places to play in the country, period. Kirby said today that Neyland is one of the toughest, if not the toughest. This is going to be a real test where we find out what this team is made of. And I think they're young. This is the only thing, like, had they played at Vanderbilt, had they played at Carolina or Arkansas or a place that's not a huge place already, you would say, well, they played on the road. They know what that's like. They've been in a plane and buses and all these things. They've not done that. And they're going to the largest stadium and that they typically play at, which is at Tennessee. So over 100,000 people. The thing about Neyland is it's probably the loudest place in the SEC. In terms of seating, it's one of the largest, but it's not physically as large as you would think it is if you've never been up there. The seats are stacked on top of each other and it goes straight up. It's not like Athens where it kind of goes out. Neyland goes up, and there's a quasi roof at the top. There's several rows at the top of Neyland that are underneath a roof. I mean, I wouldn't call it a roof. I am calling it a roof because I don't know the better term for that. But it traps the sound in a little bit more, and they use, of course, a lot of speakers at Neyland around the field. So there's a lot of challenges here, and if you've never been in that situation before, you don't, it can be like, oh man, look at this. But Kirby's big thing is, hey, don't worry about the environment, worry about the people that you're going up against. He said, you've got to go out and execute as a unit. It's not you against 100,000. It's you 11 on 11. That's right. I mean, you want to simplify things as much as possible. If you are Georgia, if you're anybody playing sports, you don't want things to be complex. I think that this could be the most difficult game Georgia plays this season. I mean, it could be. You're talking about Florida, that's looking rough. Texas and Alabama come to Athens, and then Mississippi, Kentucky, those games are home games. You've got Auburn and Tennessee on the road. You're playing Tech in Atlanta. So this right now, 3 weeks into it, this could be the most difficult situation, maybe Auburn, and maybe Alabama and Texas, but this could be, at the end of the day, one of the most difficult. It could be the most difficult. It will be one of the most difficult, and that's the challenge. We talk about that and more in this week's What We Were Hearing, which comes out on Mondays now. Not Sundays. Sundays in the offseason, Mondays during the season. Josh Heupel's done a great job at Tennessee. He's not beaten Georgia yet. He's had a lot of success at Neyland, for sure. Last year they had a hard time on the road. They lost to Arkansas, they lost to Ohio State, lost to Georgia. They were two-score losses to Georgia and Ohio State. They lost to Arkansas 19-14. The other sort of challenge for Tennessee has been that the Vols get in, score a fair amount of points in non-SEC play, and I'm just going to go through it real quick. In 2022, Ball State 59 points, Akron 63 points, Pittsburgh 34 points. And they get in the SEC play. They kept it up, as you recall, in 2022. They became the number one team in the country. But that slowed down when they played Georgia. They scored 13 points. But they scored a pile of points in 22. So keep that in mind. In 23, they scored 49. They struggled with Austin Peay, 30-13 in 2023. And then they scored 16 against the Gators. They played South Carolina. They beat them. They scored 41. Then they got into a stretch here again where they weren't scoring over, in this case, over 30 points. They beat Carolina. They scored 20 against A&M. They scored 20 against Alabama. They scored 33 against Kentucky. They scored 7 against Missouri. They scored 10 against Georgia. And then they closed the season with 48. Last year, they scored 69, 51, 71, and then they went and they scored 25, 19, 23, 24, 28, 33. They looked pretty good that day against Mississippi State. And then they scored 17 against Georgia before scoring 36 against Vanderbilt. So is this a Tennessee team that's going to – they've scored 45. One of those guys against Syracuse. This is a Tennessee team that scored 45 and 72. Is Georgia's defense ready to slow this, basketball on grass team down? That's a good question. We don't know the answer to that. We're going to know Saturday. There's definitely you should be concerned as a Georgia fan. This is not just going to be some blowout win over Tennessee. These Georgia going up there and just thrashing Tennessee. I don't see it. And Georgia's gone up there lately, 19, 21, and 23, and had sort of decisive wins, 17 as well. But I don't think they're in the position to do that right now, offensively. Now, if you return Ernest Green, if you return Juan Gaston, we don't know what's happening yet on those fronts. If you return those guys and then you start tossing the ball around the way that they did against Marshall, that's a different conversation. But this should be a knife fight, and we'll just see what happens. Make sure you're paying attention to a Dog Post, what we were hearing. It's a great article, great offer. Thanks for watching.